Tell me if this seems familiar. You start a project at a new place, you start writing a project status report, you get to the part where you got to put the red, amber, greens into your report, and then you find you're not sure what red, amber or green means here. Most places that ask for a red, amber, green status on a status report will provide some guidance somewhere on what a red, amber and green means, and it's up to you to go and look for it. But if it doesn't exist, or you're working in an environment where you're actually creating the guidance and you're creating the governance for these reports, maybe this video is going to help. Usually your report will ask in one way or another for the overall health of the project. And for this, you'd give a red, amber or green score. But I would urge you to hold off on this and see first if there are any component RAG scores you need to populate first. The reason for this becomes clear later on. So generally speaking, red means things are going wrong, green means things are going fine, and amber's something in between. But in order to be consistent in how you report, it helps to have a trigger that will take you from one state to the other. That way you can avoid conversations about how a project feels amber or feels red. You just look at the facts. And by doing that, your report and all the other reports in your portfolio end up being consistent. So let's look at the components. You'll often get a component RAG on there called budget or costs or finances. Basically, it's green if you're not overspending. Now here's the question. Are you red if you're overspending by $1? Some places will give guidance that say, yes, if you're overspending at all, you are red. I discourage this. I try to keep the amber scores closer to the tolerance that's set for your project. But if you don't know what project tolerance is, don't worry, I'll make a video about that soon. But for right now, let's just say it's the amount that people will excuse you going above an agreed amount in terms of time or cost before you need to escalate and request more money, more time and so on. So if the tolerance is set to 10%, I'll say that as long as you're overspending, but not by more than 10%, then that puts you in the amber. Personally, I find it a little bit dangerous to have just a percentage score on your budget. I think that it's dangerous because you can end up having multi-million pound projects. Having 10% overspend on a $10 million project is very different to having a 10% overspend on a $1,000 project. So what I tend to add to my guidance is up to 10% will make you amber, but not exceeding X amount, $5,000, $10,000. Another component you'll have on there will be something like the plan or the timescales or delivery. And what you're looking at there is the project late? Again, if it's 1 day late, does that turn your project red? That doesn't seem appropriate. Again, you look at the tolerances. If the tolerances are something like a month, then fine, set your amber to a month. In that case, if you're running late, but not more than a month late, then you're amber. If you're running more than a month late, then you're red. The question is, when it's saying the project is running a month late, does it mean the whole project? Does it mean something, a key milestone that's coming up? Or does it mean the end date of the project? Usually what I'm measuring against is the go live date or the project closure date. I tend to use the target closure date because more people just understand that. And also sometimes you can have multiple go lives, multiple releases. It's simpler to just focus on one date. So in my world, if you've got a delay that's happening right now, and it's something that can be corrected, it's not going to push the target end date out, then you may actually still be green. You may be asked a few questions about how much fat you've got in your project plan, if that's the situation, but that's a fight for another day. If this is helpful to you, don't forget to hit the like button. How you score your benefits can be a little bit complicated. If you've got purely financial benefits, then maybe the benefit RAG would be a simple measure like 10 or 5%. So if your project is going to realize less benefits than expected, but not more than 5% off, then you're amber. If it's going to be more than 5%, then you're red. That's a lot easier to calculate when it comes to financial benefits. For non-financial benefits, you're going to have to find a different measure, and it may be a customer experience score or a speed of delivery. So try to find a measure that you can apply a consistent score against. Quality is a difficult one to RAG score against. It's green if it's meeting the acceptance criteria, but then if you're deviating on quality, how much of a deviation takes you from amber to red? It's not perfect, but the best I could come up with was to say if it's negligible impact on the user, then it's an amber. If it's more than negligible, then you're going red. It's not a perfect system because people can argue about what negligible means in that situation. But if you've got something better, put it in the comments. I'll be happy to learn from you. If you're having to score scope, again, if there are no changes to scope or no threats to the scope, then it's green. If you've applied Moscow ratings to elements of your scope and you find that the should-haves are starting to become questionable, then that's amber. But if some of the must-dos are starting to become questionable, that's red. Again, it's not a perfect system. It relies on having this Moscow rating in place before you even start reporting. If you've got a resource rag on there that you're scoring against, generally I put that you're green if you've got no problems with your resources and there are no foreseeable problems. If you've got a potential problem with resources coming up, then it's amber. And if you've got a definite problem with resources, you're going to have some critical people missing from the project, then you're red. A lot of places will have a risk rag on there as well, and I've mentioned in plenty of videos in the past why I don't apply that, and that's because a risk will usually impact the components that we've already mentioned on this video. So if there's a risk that's impacting on your project plan, you don't end up double scoring it by saying that the plan rag is red and so is the risk rag. But you may have different measures and different ways of using the risk rag. Again, I'd suggest that you just try to find a consistent way to report on it. So now we come back to the overall project health score. And this is why this had to come last. If you started off by thinking, actually the project's okay, I'm going to give it a green, and then you start thinking about the components and going through them and scoring them, and you start dropping lots of ambers and reds in there, then you're going to have to go back and rework that original assessment of the project. So you might as well just do the component part first, and then see how that impacts the overall health score. And in the interest of being consistent, this is what I've suggested. The project is green by default. However, if 2 or more components turn amber, then the project health turns amber. And that is unless there are any red component scores. Even 1 red component score turns the project health red. If that seems a little extreme, then go back to my definitions earlier. If you said the project is going to be a month late, that's a red. If you're going to overspend by more than 10%, that's a red. If your benefits are more than 5% off target, that's red. If the quality problems are causing more than negligible problems for the user, that's red. And if the scope is missing must-have elements, it's red. This is really going to help you when you know that your project is red or an amber, but you've got a sponsor or somebody who is politically influential to the project who's arguing it should stay green so that they can save face. By using these methods, you take the feeling out of it. You are evidensibly green or amber or red. All you have to do is be consistent. And sometimes that means that you're going to have to report amber and reds yourself, and you don't want to draw that kind of attention. But it's for the best. A lot of the time people think that project managers try to hide ambers and reds in order to save face or look like they're doing better than they are. My experience is that generally project managers are honest and they're trying to get the true message out there. I hope this has helped. I'm doing daily project management content now. If that's your thing, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of it. I'm Stuart Taylor from Influential PMO, and I'll see you next time. Mwah!